Hey guys, Shala here with another episode of Let's Talk FFBE, and today we're going to be covering Dark Visions, the ranked event coming out on the 23rd of April. Now, this is going to be a very challenging piece of content, although very, very fun, and we recommend that those of you who are ranked 50 or above give it a try because the rewards are totally worth it. You get really, really good stuff out of this event depending on how well you perform, but how do you go about it? How do you play the Dark Visions ranked event? Well, stick around to find out. Alright, let's just jump right into it and talk a little bit about the overall flow of Dark Visions, the ranked event, how it works. Now, this event is not just going to happen this one time. We do plan to have it several times in the future as well. However, we have to point out that it works a little bit differently. This is not necessarily a cumulative point system. You don't go into the same battle or the same wave or the same, boss fight in order to gain more points necessarily. What you are doing is you're going into each and every battle trying to get the highest event points possible based on certain criteria that we're going to be discussing later on in this video. So, again, to point out that you are not necessarily getting more points by repeating the same battle over and over. The only way to get more points for the same battle is if you score higher than you did before. So if you go in the first time and you go against this monster and you get a low score, then you go in a second time against the same monster, you get a higher score than your first time, then the higher score from the second time around will be the one that counts towards your overall score at the very end. And once you tally all of those scores against individual monsters, you will get a total grand score at the very end, which is what is used to compare your performance against other players' performances and earn you your ranking. I also have to point out that if you happen to go in a third time or a fourth time because you think you might do a little bit better, and you actually do worse than the other times that you've gone in there, don't worry about it, because the game will only remember the highest score that you ever achieved for that particular battle. So feel free to try it as many times as you want to get the highest score possible for you. Just remember that the more that you do the battle doesn't necessarily mean you will be getting more points for that. Okay? Now let's take a look at how the event actually looks like. Now we're almost ready to set out to battle, but before we do that, we need to check our boss's weaknesses. Before you go and head out, there is a screen for you guys that will show you with icons what this boss is weak to. There will always be weak to a certain element and also to a certain type of damage, whether it be physical or magic damage. Very important to check out that information before you go into battle to make things easier for yourself. If you actually tap on the monster, it should show you a more detailed screen about the boss's weaknesses as well. And for this particular event, a lot of the bosses are going to be weak to fire, lightning, water, and dark. So keep that in mind when searching for the right units in your inventory. But also do keep in mind that maybe your powerful units are not necessarily geared towards the elements that you need, but you may have weapons at your disposal that are geared towards the elements that you do need. So experiment with equipping your units with elemental weapons, and hopefully that helps you out with this event. Now, if you bring units that neither have that type of elemental ability that you need or the weapons that have that element that you need, it's okay. You will still be able to deal damage, physical, magic damage, other elemental types of damage. It's just that the boss is going to have very high resistances against these. So it's going to take a lot longer. It's going to be the long scenic route if you do go about it this way. Your damage won't be nullified, it won't be zero, but definitely take advantage of these weaknesses of the monsters. Exploit them as much as you can, and try to build your parties around them. Now, for each battle, you will be able to bring 6 units. However, you cannot bring 2 of the same units. You cannot bring duplicates. You can also rely only on yourself, because you are not allowed to bring friends with you. So if you were hoping that a really good friend of you was going to carry you through this battle, then you are wrong. You can only depend on yourself. You're going solo, okay? So make sure that you're building your parties as strongly as you can. Make sure that you're also checking your party slots, because you will get as many as 16 party slots. You'll get 2 per element, and these 2 will have a 20% damage boost towards that particular element. So in the fire slots, in the 2 fire slots, you definitely want to build a party that is geared towards dealing fire damage. That way they can benefit from that extra 20% boost to fire damage abilities, or, damage in general. You don't want to be putting your water units in the fire slots, because they're not going to, enjoy that 20% damage boost. So be careful where you're placing your units and what element they are geared to. You have to keep a watchful eye on these. I personally, when I build my parties for Dark Visions, I have 2 slots for every element. I always do 1 slot for physical damage dealing, and then the other slot is for magic damage dealing. And then all I have to do when I go into the event is sometimes I switch out my tank, depending on what monster I'm facing. And that's pretty much it. That way I'm covered both ways. So, if you guys want to try that, that's cool. If you want to do it your way, that's also cool, because this is definitely something that you have to attune to your taste. You have to just play with everything and try to organize it as it works for you, so that you can get the best score possible. For the event, you're going to have a total of 15 battles. The first 5 are going to be available right away on the 23rd of April. The next 5 are going to be available on the 24th, so that's the next day. And then the last 5 the next day after that, on the 25th of April. So make sure that you're keeping keeping an eye out for when these battles are being unlocked, so that you can try them immediately. And let's take a look at how you can achieve a good score. It is now time to discuss the criteria that we will be using to judge your performance in battle. We had mentioned this earlier on in the video, but there are going to be 6 different criteria, and again, only your highest score will count towards the overall score at the very end, which is the one that gets pitted against all the other players in the rankings. So you are wanting to go into every battle trying to get the higher score possible. These are the things that you have to watch out for in order to do that, okay? First one is quest cleared. Next one is the max damage in 1 turn. Third one is the amount of damage received. Fourth is the number of times your units were KO'd. Fifth is the number of turns that it took you for the clear. And then the last one is the max number of chains that you were able to achieve in battle. If these are a little confusing, the details are on screen for you. I'm pretty sure they are self-explanatory. The only one that I think is a little bit tricky is the quest cleared points, because the quest cleared points are always going to be a fixed score. So it doesn't matter how many times you went to attempt the same battle to get a higher score every time. that score, the number that shows on screen for that particular criteria, will not change. It will remain fixed every single time. The only time that this changes is when you face a different monster. Maybe that monster is a little bit more difficult than the other one that you faced. Then you get more quest clear points for that particular monster. So it may vary from monster to monster, but if you're going into the same battle a certain number of times, the score itself will remain the same as long as you get the clear. Okay? So don't go into any battle trying to think that if you run it 50 times, you get more quest clear points. That's not how this works. I just want to make that very clear from the get-go. Alright? Now let's take a look at the rewards that we can expect from this event. We're going to have both milestone rewards and ranking rewards. And we get lots of cool stuff. Obviously, you guys can see that on screen, hopefully. But the one thing that is being integrated that is completely new to Dark Visions, to the game through Dark Visions, is this little item called Dark Matter. And Dark Matter is very important because you need it for 3 different things in connection to Dark Visions. Now, the first thing that you need it for is to purchase the base item slash weapon slash equipment from the Moogle Guard Captain at King Mog's. The second thing that you need it for is to then buy the recipes to upgrade that base item. And the third thing that you need it for is as materials to do the actual upgrade for that piece of equipment. And that's why you want to be collecting as much dark matter as possible throughout this event. You will get it through milestone rewards. You know, you achieved a certain number of points because you've been playing lots of Dark Visions, then you get some dark matter there. At the very end of the event, when all the scores have been tallied and you get your ranking, depending on how well you did, you will also get even more dark matter that you can then use to either, you know, buy more recipes or do more upgrades, which is absolutely amazing. And this time, for our grand opening of Dark Visions, the ranked event, we are going to have 2 weapons available immediately. We're going to have the Dark Ragnarok, which is a sword, and we're going to have the Dark Gambentine, which is a rod. So this is up to you to pick which one should you be spending your dark matter on. Are you more of a physical damage dealer and you want the Dark Ragnarok, or maybe your mages are stronger, so you want the Dark Gambentine? It's totally up to you. You get to choose. It's absolutely amazing. Now, when you upgrade these, the max rarity that you can ever achieve for both of these weapons is a 10-star rarity. And let me just give you the stats for these weapons at 10-star because they are absolutely ridiculous. We have the Dark Ragnarok ++ with a 220 attack, and it will enable Dark Authority, which is an ability that damages all enemies in battle. 220 attack is crazy. It's, you know, one of the most powerful weapons in the game, if not the most powerful one. Physical, you know, damage type. Absolutely crazy. The second one, Dark Gambentine ++. Magic 224. And I'm not stuttering when I say these numbers because I want you to hear them clearly. This one is going to enable Dark Illumination, which is also going to damage all enemies in battle. But 224 magic for that one. Your mages are going to have the time of their lives when you manage to get this weapon to 10-star rarity. Now, one thing that I do have to mention after hyping these 2 weapons up is that a total of 2,100 dark matter is required to max out each weapon's potential. And, you know, that's including the initial purchase of the base weapon itself, and then the recipe prices and the prices required to upgrade the weapons themselves. So, unfortunately, this first time around, it doesn't matter if you ranked, like, the very first, like, if you were number 1, top of the charts, and you got all the dark matter possible from this event, it will still not be enough to get to a 10-star rarity right away. You're going to have to play Dark Visions again in the future when we rerun it. It might take you 2 times. It might take you 3 times. Maybe you don't perform as well because your units are not that great, or your equipment is not that great, or maybe you just are not really getting the hang of the event. So maybe it takes you 5 times. That's okay. you know, go at your own pace, get as much dark matter as you can each and every time, and just evolve these weapons, you know, however you see fit, however works best for you. It doesn't really matter what level they are in currently. These weapons can achieve, you know, Trust Master, Super Trust Master power levels. You know, I wouldn't say very easily. I think that's a lie, but fairly easily as long as you're keeping up with the events. So you have to do these events. You have to go in there, get the dark matter so that you can take advantage of these amazing rewards that the event has to offer. So save up your dark matter, be looking out for these powerful weapons, cause they're really gonna bring on the pain. And that does it for us here today. Are you guys excited for Dark Visions? I certainly hope so. I know that I am. I mean, if those rewards were not enough to entice you to play this event, I don't know what on earth is, because they're absolutely broken, absolutely OP pieces of equipment that everybody should try getting their hands on. I definitely recommend that you play this event as much as possible. So get hyped, get excited. I hope that you guys are looking forward to this event, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.